last night, Larry, how are you looking at the system right now? Polls and every single poll is showing that Biden is facing a lot of trouble. Dismal polling numbers, to be honest. Yet, Democrats did very well in Ohio, in Kentucky, in Virginia last night. Is it broken?
No, actually, there's no contradiction, and it's very interesting because polls are not elections, and elections are not polls, and votes are the only things that matter. Now, what polls can do is to send up a flare that there's a problem for a candidate or something that a party has to fix, and I think that's what the recent polls have done for the White House and for President Biden. But the elections are always much more important than polls. And what's fascinating about this series of elections and the ones we had in November of 2022 for the midterm election is that they're saying the same thing. There is, in fact, a sustained pro-abortion rights bias, if you will, in the general population, and it's strong enough for people to act on. They vote on the basis of their views on abortion.
I'd like to zero in on your state of Virginia for just a moment. I actually saw a couple of folks in line yesterday, Larry, and I'm taken by your tweet. I'm guessing that the governor was taken by it as well. Now, we have to remember that there was a suggestion here, a promise that Governor Youngkin would roll through this election, turn the legislature red, and then parachute into the Republican presidential primary. You write, clearance sale. All Youngkin for President 24 merchandise. A free MyPillow comes with all purchases over $1. No returns. What does this say about his future as a Republican leader?
Well, it was tongue in cheek. Let me just underline that for anyone who may be offended. But what it really says is this. Had Governor Youngkin succeeded in finding a way out for Republicans on the issue of abortion, which they haven't had since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, and had he been able to turn the Virginia legislature red, even by tiny numbers, I think he would have been well on his way to a possible draft in 2024 and a near certain candidacy for 2028. Well, I think they can go ahead and cancel the trips to New Hampshire and Iowa and some of the other early states. Now, 2028 is a long way off, but based on his performance last night, and votes are more important than polls, he's not going to be a credible candidate for president this time around.
But the chairman of Youngkin's political operation noted on Twitter, he said, in the state President Biden carried by 10 points, Republicans came within just a few thousand votes of winning majorities in both legislative chambers. There was also some districts that Republicans won that Biden won handsomely. So did the governor at least have a good night in terms of getting his message out about conservatism in Virginia, given how close this election was?
Well, it was close in part because voter turnout is so much lower for off-year elections. That's what this is. Virginia has an election every year, and I don't blame people for getting tired and maybe occasionally not voting, although I always encourage people to vote. But this was a very small turnout, and many of the races were decided by just a couple hundred votes, 300 votes, 200 votes, 100 votes. So what matters in the end is the total. That's all that matters, not the total number of votes, the total number of seats. And the fact of the matter is Democrats now control both houses of the legislature, and the governor has only 2 years left in his 1 4-year term as governor. They can't run for re-election. And he's already a lame duck.
I want to ask you about what happened last night in Kentucky. If you could follow us there, Larry. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear taking a victory lap last night. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Just look at what we were up against. 5 super PACs. My opponent's super PAC, Mitch McConnell's super PAC, Rand Paul's super PAC, the Club for Growth, the Republican Governors Association, all running ads full of hate and division. And you know what? We beat them all at the same time.
Quite a victory lap. Yes, that was a Democrat, if you're playing along on your home game in Kentucky. Donald Trump goes on Truth Social, Larry, after to write, Daniel Cameron, his rival, lost because he could not alleviate the stench of Mitch McConnell. he went on to say a lot more than that, but I believe Donald Trump endorsed Daniel Cameron. So whose stench was it last night?
Well, I don't think it was either one of their stenches, but that was so predictable. Donald Trump was going to get the first stab in and the first chance to blame somebody else. And naturally, he's going to pick Mitch McConnell since he despises him. But look, It is true. Donald Trump carried Kentucky by 26 points. But you know what's refreshing about the Kentucky vote, regardless of your party? It's that finally we found a place where someone who is a good candidate with an empathetic personality and who's done a good job can get elected, even though a sizable majority of the electorate really leans or belongs to the other party. And that's what happened with Beshear's election. And he's put himself on a list, long list, for president or vice president in 2028 on the Democratic side.
How about that?
Yeah, I'm sure he is. Larry, can you just give us a sense of what you're expecting this evening when it comes to abortion on the Republican debate stage? Because clearly last night, voters are not over, as you say, they are not over this abortion issue, and the Republican messaging is not working.
It certainly isn't, and they're caught between a rock and a hard place. They really can't abandon their long-held position on abortion. They would lose a big part of the Republican base, and they'd never win the nomination. At the same time, anything they say on television in this debate will be replayed in ad after ad after ad if one of them actually becomes the nominee. So they can't win. They might as well go ahead and appeal to the Republican base because that's who they have to please first. So I would expect there to be some tough statements made about abortion. Haley has the ability to be empathetic in a way that I don't think any of the other candidates on the stage do. That's worked for her in some other capacities so far in this election. She's way behind, but she's doing better than the other also-rans. So I'm looking to see how she handles that and how she transforms her empathy into a statement on abortion.